the night I won Best Actress. A video of me, visibly pregnant, was suddenly leaked by haters. The entire room erupted. Every reporter rushed forward shouting the same question. Miss Emma, who's the father of the child? I turned slightly, meeting Oliver's utterly stunned gaze, always composed and distant. This was the first time he had ever lost control in public. I smiled and replied calmly, I'm not pregnant. The moment Oliver abandoned me for his childhood sweetheart, everything between us was already doomed. Chapter 1. Before stepping onto the red carpet. My agent reminded me over and over, if I saw Amelia, just pretend she doesn't exist. Absolutely no more drama, because, after all, Amelia belonged to Oliver now. Half the entertainment industry was controlled by Oliver's family. There used to be a saying floating around, want to get famous? Sleep with Oliver. Crude, but not entirely false. Any woman who had a connection to Oliver seemed to rise easily through the ranks. All except for me. I was the only one who'd ever publicly dated Oliver, and almost got blacklisted for it, because I had offended his precious childhood sweetheart. No matter how hard I worked afterward, no matter how much the public praised my acting, I never once received an award. Year after year of being a nominee and never a winner. It ground down all my edges. I stopped appearing on the same stage as Amelia. Any project she expressed interest in, I'd politely decline with the excuse of schedule conflict. Maybe my quiet retreat finally paid off, or maybe she and Oliver were about to get married, and she didn't want bad luck anymore. Either way, they finally graciously allowed a trophy to slip through their fingers and land in mine. When my agent found out, she nearly cried. Emma, your suffering days are finally over. Oliver was finally willing to let me go, even if the breakup wasn't my fault. I had never been a match for Oliver. I gave up a long time ago. Chapter 2. Right after my agent warned me not to stir up drama with Amelia. Amelia went out of her way to invite me to walk the red carpet with her. Oliver's ex and current flame walking side by side? Just that alone was enough to go viral. I knew exactly what she wanted. To humiliate me from every angle. Not just because she had Oliver now, but also because we were wearing dresses from the same brand. Except hers was the latest design. And mine? Last year's outdated model. I could already picture the headlines and trending posts. Her fans and my haters laughing at how cheap I looked. But that's fine. I never wanted to compete with her in fashion. And I certainly wasn't hoping Oliver would come crawling back. She wanted to be the leading lady? Then I'd gladly be the supporting role to frame her in all her glory. But apparently, Amelia still wasn't satisfied. She leaned in and whispered, Emma, did you know Oliver's coming tonight? I didn't. Ever since our breakup, Oliver and I had completely cut ties. Still, when I heard his name, my footsteps faltered for a second. She caught it. Her smile turned mocking. Don't get ideas. He's here for me. Has nothing to do with you. I know, even though Oliver's family basically owns half the industry. He's never attended a single public event, not even when we were dating at our best. Amelia added, Oliver and I are getting married. I nodded, then turned to her with a sincere smile. I wish you both happiness. Maybe I was too soft tonight. So soft that even Amelia lost interest in toying with me further. Or maybe she just couldn't wait to go find Oliver. The moment we finished the red carpet, she vanished without a word. I stayed, posed for the cameras, answered a few polite questions. All the reporters were tactful. No one mentioned Oliver. Even though our love affair had once set the internet on fire, the ending was just too ugly. Oliver had learned about our breakup from a trending topic. That interview had been set up to discuss our relationship's progress. But I looked into the camera and said just 5 words. Calm and cold. We broke up already. No warning. No explanation. Chapter 3. Oliver called me once after the breakup. He didn't explain. He didn't apologize. He didn't even ask me why. He just confirmed. You've made up your mind? I quietly answered. He paused for a second, then hung up. I thought he'd be angry. After all, he was raised like the crown prince, surrounded by adoration, never contradicted. And yet I dumped him, and he wasn't even the first to know. The hashtag Oliver got dumped trended for 3 days straight. Oliver never had it removed. My agency, terrified of offending the Oliver family, tried to pull it down, but the moment it disappeared, it went right back up. It wasn't just about public shame. It was his warning to me. Sure enough, my career started unraveling soon after, until 6 years passed, until Oliver calmed down, until he and Amelia were close to getting married. The past played vividly in my mind. I drifted for a moment. The host had to call my name twice before I snapped out of it. Everyone around me was celebrating, amid the thunderous applause. I glanced toward the front row. Amelia was sitting there. The seat beside her was empty. There was no name card. But everyone knew whose seat that was. Oliver's. He hadn't arrived. Good. Spared me the awkwardness. But when I stepped on stage and looked up to give my speech, Oliver was suddenly sitting there, properly, as if he'd always been. He hadn't changed much. Except his aura, calmer, colder, when our eyes met. He looked at me like I was a stranger. No emotion, no reaction. I steadied myself. Then began to speak, calm and composed. Chapter 4. Halfway through my speech, a commotion started in the audience. Calling it a murmur would be too polite. People were trying to hold it in. But the gossip was too explosive, and voices began to rise. Someone had just leaked a video of me, visibly pregnant, from years ago. 6 years ago. Shortly after Oliver and I broke up, I tried to bury myself in work. But before joining a production, I found out I was pregnant, so I quit the drama and disappeared from the public eye for a whole year. The footage came from surveillance in the apartment complex I used to live in. I can't even remember where I was going that day, but I wasn't wearing a mask, so my face was crystal clear. When I stepped off the stage, still holding the trophy, my agent and assistant rushed over, trying to shield me from the chaos. But it was too late. The reporters had already swarmed. Microphones and cameras were shoved in my face. Everyone was asking the same question. Miss Emma, who's the father of the child? I was stuck in the crowd, unable to move. Meanwhile, over by Oliver's side, no one dared get too close. If he and I were still together, maybe the media would have shown me a bit more mercy. I saw the shock on Oliver's face. His fingertips, resting on the armrest, were clenched tight without even realizing it. He knew who the father was, which is why, for the first time ever, the always calm and cold Oliver lost his composure in public. I didn't answer the reporters directly. I just smiled and said, I don't have a child. Chapter 5. I doubt any Best Actress has ever left an award ceremony in such a mess. My gown was stepped on and stained. One of my earrings got lost in the chaos. A swarm of reporters chased after me. It looked less like a celebration and more like an escape. My manager and assistant were both in shock. It took a while after getting in the car before either of them could speak. What's going on? You have a child? Is it Oliver's? Where's the baby now? There were too many questions. I gave a bitter smile, not knowing where to begin. Neither of them had been with me from the start of my career. Everything they knew about me and Oliver came from gossip or online threads. That year I vanished from the public eye. People assumed I'd been blacklisted. When I came back to the industry, they said I was just healing from heartbreak. No one actually knew what had happened, not even my current team. When they saw the video today, they were just like everyone else, convinced I'd gone off to have a baby. A whole year off. The timeline fit too perfectly. My manager was even excited. If Oliver comes looking for the baby, this is your chance. Make up with him now and you'll be drowning in awards forever. I shook my head. She froze for a moment, then nearly hit the car roof from how fast she shot up. You're not seriously thinking of pissing him off again, are you? How could I dare? My headshake meant, there's no child. There had been, back then, but I didn't keep it. She didn't quite believe me. A 1-year break was too convenient. She wanted to press further. But the assistant handed over a phone. Gloria, look, another trending scandal? Damn these vultures. The manager snatched the phone, but after one glance, her expression changed. Wait, what's going on here? There wasn't a single trending smear post about me. Not even an ugly photo. And yet, I just walked out of that venue in total disgrace. This was Oliver's doing. If he wanted to destroy someone, it was easy. If he wanted to protect someone, it was even easier. My manager was stressed out. You really didn't keep the child? Then how are you going to explain this to Oliver? Why should I explain anything to him? He doesn't love me. Besides, he and Amelia are about to get married. Chapter 6. I knew Oliver would come find me. The video leak was sudden, and it involved a child. He wouldn't ignore that, but I didn't expect him to come so fast. When I got home, he was already waiting downstairs, across the darkness. His tall silhouette looked exactly the same as it did 6 years ago. Except, back then, when he saw me, he would open his arms and wait for me to run into them. Now, he just stood there, cold, untouchable. My manager, uneasy, held me back as I opened the door. I turned to smile at her. It's fine. If he wanted to kill me, he wouldn't have to do it himself. True, she sighed, then gave me a reminder. You've survived the worst already. From here on, it should all get better. Please, don't make things harder for yourself again. I nodded with a smile. Once they left, I walked toward Oliver. Steady steps, like greeting an old friend. Only I knew, in those final 2 steps before reaching him, my heart was pounding. I had loved him so deeply that, when the earthquake hit, and he left me behind without hesitation to go find Amelia, I nearly lost the will to survive. Oliver knew why I broke up with him, but he never explained, not a word. And when I humiliated him publicly by announcing the breakup, he made sure I was ridiculed for years in this industry, because he was rich and powerful. And I wasn't, even today. Even knowing he was in the wrong, I was the one to speak first. President Oliver. He frowned, voice low. I still prefer when you call me by my name. I used to call his name so many times. Oliver. I'm almost done filming. Let's go eat. Oliver. You've been on a business trip for a week. When are you coming back? Oliver. I miss you so much. 6 years had passed, but I could still remember exactly how I used to say those words. A wave of sorrow rose in my chest. I shook my head with a faint smile. Miss Amelia said you two are getting married soon. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to call you by name anymore. Congratulations. Oliver looked at me. You think I can still get married now? Even if Amelia was still willing to marry him, even if she was willing to suddenly become a stepmother, his family wouldn't allow it. They cared too much about appearances. And now, once again, I had ruined it for him. Sorry, I said quickly. Where's the child? He asked. Chapter 7. Oliver finally asked the question that hung in the air all night. The child, the one that was suddenly exposed, but no one had ever seen. His voice was heavier now, clearly unhappy. You were pregnant. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know at first, and by the time I found out, we had already broken up. I didn't want to affect things between you and Miss Amelia. Oliver let out a cold laugh. You hid it for 6 years, and it still got exposed. Did that help lessen the impact? I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to say but those 3 words. When Oliver and I first got together, people warned me, Oliver likes obedient girls, but I could never pretend to be obedient. I was young. I thought falling in love meant forever, and no one can pretend forever. So in front of Oliver, I threw tantrums, acted petty, got jealous. He didn't know how to comfort me, but he never held it against me either. And once I cooled off, things were fine again. I used to be so full of life, so fiery. Not like now. The me he sees is calm, reserved, guarded. He asked again, where's the child? There is no child. From the moment I found out I was pregnant, I never planned to keep it. A man who didn't love me would never love my child, and I never wanted to be a single mother, so I ended it. There was a flash in Oliver's eyes, a light that broke through the dark ocean behind them. Finally, I could see emotion in him. He actually cared about that child. That surprised me. Was it because he valued his bloodline? Or was there ever a part of him that had truly, sincerely loved me? Chapter 8. Oliver was angry, even after 6 years apart. His habit of closing his eyes when upset hadn't changed. I stared at him, unsure what to do. I didn't know what he was mad about. If we're being honest, I'm the one who should be angry. Just before we broke up, Oliver and I had finally carved out 5 days to go on a trip together. We were genuinely happy, but because he told Amelia about the trip, she showed up the very next day. I was already a bit upset, but she said their families were close, that she and Oliver grew up like siblings, and Oliver never asked her to leave, so I kept quiet and endured it. Who would have thought? The next day, an earthquake hit. I still remember it clearly. As I was running out, I tripped down the stairs, bruised thigh, a badly twisted ankle. Worse, I hit my head and my vision went blurry. Oliver initially tried to carry me, but then we heard Amelia scream, "Oliver Gidge, come help me! Oliver, where are you? Please, help!" He looked at me once, then turned and ran to find Amelia. He left me behind, whether I made it out or not. Whether I lived or died, it didn't matter to him. He never explained why. Even after I publicly announced our breakup, without warning, even when he let the industry mock me for years. Tonight, Oliver finally asked me, "Do you want to hear my explanation?" I froze. That earthquake became a trauma. Every time I think about it, my chest tightens, my breathing falters. 2 years ago, I acted in a drama that included a quake scene. The director praised my performance endlessly, said it was the most realistic portrayal of terror he'd ever seen. But I wasn't acting. I was really scared. Even after filming, I couldn't shake the feeling. That night, I had a nightmare, reliving the moment Oliver left me. I woke up drenched in sweat. My mind was clear, but my body froze. I couldn't get up. The next morning, my assistant found me still in bed, burning up with fever. She rushed me to the hospital. Chapter 9. Before and after our public breakup. I never once asked Oliver for an explanation, because I believed actions speak louder than words. When it came to life and death, the person he chose to save was Amelia. Even if he told me 1,000 times that he loved me, it would have meant nothing. Still, I didn't want to be haunted by this nightmare forever. Since he brought it up first, I decided to listen. Oliver said Amelia had an older brother. He and Oliver had been best friends growing up. When they were 13, they snuck out to play and got caught by dangerous men. Someone wanted to kidnap Oliver. The two boys ran for their lives, trying everything they could to escape. In the end, only Oliver came back. We decided to split up to confuse the kidnappers. Before we separated, her brother's last words to me were, "If I don't make it back, take care of my parents and Amelia." So, in that moment of chaos, when he heard Amelia crying out, he went to save her, because he didn't want his best friend to die in vain. He didn't want to break that promise. Childhood friendships are sacred, especially when the other person died because of him. I could understand why he'd never mentioned this before, but I still had to ask, what if I had died that day? He owed Amelia's family. He wanted to repay them. That's fine, but I didn't owe the CF family anything. So why did I have to pay the price? Why risk my life? Oliver didn't answer. Maybe he thought it wasn't worth responding to a hypothetical. After all, I didn't die, and now I was back, causing trouble again. I didn't press him any further. I just told him, "Don't worry, I really didn't secretly have the baby." I don't know where the video came from either, but I definitely didn't want it exposed. Oliver looked at me. There was something like sorrow in his eyes, a flicker that disappeared too fast. Then he said calmly, challenging me, "I talked to a doctor with a belly that size, even for someone who doesn't show early. You were probably at least 5 months in, even 4, minimum." Then came the real accusation. "Emma, you did keep the baby. You just hate me for abandoning you, so you hid it all these years, and now you're still denying it, aren't you?" Chapter 10. No, I really didn't. When you're younger, you have more pride than sense. I loved Oliver deeply, but I also loved myself. And from the moment he left me for Amelia during that earthquake, it was over between us. Even now that he's explained, even though I understand, it doesn't mean I accept it. But tonight, Oliver was strangely persistent. The man who always handled things swiftly and decisively kept asking the same question again and again, as if he needed me to admit I kept the baby. I had no choice but to tell the truth. I didn't terminate the pregnancy immediately, because I was sick. At the same time I found out I was pregnant, I also received a diagnosis. Due to treatment, I had to delay the abortion. The meds made me gain a lot of weight. That's why I looked bigger than most pregnant women. But the actual term wasn't that far along. That year, I lost everything: love, career, health, and my mother. No one in the world could compare to her. No one loved me like she did. When I found out I was sick and pregnant, I called her. She came from our hometown to care for me, stayed by my side every single night. But I was too caught up in my own pain to notice how thin she was becoming, how pale her face had gotten. The day I was discharged, she was smiling, ready to take me home. But as soon as we stepped out of the elevator, she collapsed right in front of me. That moment is blank in my memory. Even now, I still can't remember what I thought during those seconds. Was I too scared? Or had my brain just shut down? I looked at Oliver. Finally, I couldn't help it anymore. I called his name. Oliver. He answered quietly. I said, I understand your guilt toward Amelia's brother. I don't blame you for what happened back then. He looked at me. Then he asked something I never expected. So then, what now? I blinked. What do you mean? Emma, shouldn't we try again? Chapter 11. Oliver's question stunned me. People in power rarely lower their heads. If someone as proud as him could say that, he must truly want to make things right with me. But I didn't understand. If he had really cared all these years, why had he never come to find me? Why did he let others make things so hard for me? I disappeared from the public eye for a whole year. Was he never once worried? Oliver said, I actually did send someone to look for you, but the report I got back said you already had someone new. That was right after our breakup, on the day my mother came to visit, because it was hard to travel from our hometown. I asked my cousin to drive her. That must have been what Oliver's people saw. They thought he was my new boyfriend. Oliver looked annoyed. You dumped me in front of the whole world, and then had a new guy right after. I was pissed. Isn't that normal? So you gave me all those trashy scripts, and blocked all my endorsements, right? He froze. Blocked your endorsements? He hadn't done that. To be exact, Amelia had done it, using his name. But I didn't believe he hadn't noticed. He was too smart for that. He might have just let her do it, because he was angry, and wanted someone else to take it out for him. I looked at him. You lost your best friend. That made you sad. But do you know, when I lost my mom, I was devastated. Far more than you could imagine. At my lowest, I stood on a rooftop, looking at the stars like they were my mom, and asked if they could take me too. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. The meds had made me gain so much weight. Then grief made me lose it all again in a flash. When I returned to the industry, I was so thin I didn't look human. No agency wanted me. I begged my manager, promised to behave. She only took me in reluctantly. Later, as we worked together, she came to understand who I was, and she started defending me. That Amelia only gets what she wants, because her family has power. She wants everything, and when she can't have it, she steals it. She shouldn't be in showbiz. She should be a thief. When you were dating Oliver, his family said they'd never accept an actress. So why are they okay now with Amelia, constantly in the spotlight? Your acting is light years ahead of hers. Anyone with eyes can see it. If Oliver has so much money, why doesn't he buy a new pair of eyes? Of course, she only ever said this behind their backs. In public, it was always President Oliver this, and Miss Amelia that. Polite as hell, because in this world, we're just ants. and capital always wins. Chapter 12. I didn't agree to get back together with Oliver, even if it meant my career would soar, even if I'd win every award going forward. I still couldn't say yes, because I knew his family never liked me. Back when we were still together, his mother once came to me. She said I was beautiful, talented, sure to succeed one day, but their family would never accept an actress as their daughter-in-law. She advised me to break up with him. Better now than later. She even offered me resources. If I let him go, she'd make me famous. I said no. I believed then that as long as Oliver and I were strong enough, we could face anything. I didn't expect things would end so ugly. Maybe Oliver himself never really tried to ruin me, but Amelia, his family, and his friends had all made things harder for me. I couldn't afford to go through that again. So when Oliver asked for an answer, I told him I never planned on getting back together. You didn't back then, but now? Still no, he said. Amelia and I are done. Both families talked it through. She left the country today. That caught me off guard. But then again, this was exactly how Oliver handled things. Only with me did he ever hesitate. Like when I announced the breakup publicly, he called afterward, but only to wait for me to apologize. And now, after I refused to reconcile, he didn't leave either. He was waiting for me to soften, but I had no love left for him. Still, I didn't dare walk away first. The power difference between us was too great. If he insisted, I'd have two choices: compromise, or leave this industry, leave this city. So I stayed, waiting for him to pass final judgment. But after a long silence, Oliver simply asked, "That year you disappeared, you called me twice, didn't you?" Chapter 13. The first call was the day I terminated the pregnancy. Logically, I knew I was doing the right thing. But emotionally, I hadn't let go of Oliver yet. When you're hurting, when you're feeling wronged, you subconsciously think of the one you loved most. So I called him, but Amelia answered. She told me to stop being pathetic, to stop clinging to Oliver. She said if I didn't know my place, I wouldn't just disappear from the entertainment industry. I'd disappear from the earth. I didn't argue. I just hung up in silence. Of course, Amelia never told Oliver I had called. The second call was the day my mother died. The whole world went dark. I was falling into a black hole and couldn't climb out. I wanted someone, anyone, to save me. So, like a fool, I thought of Oliver again, but that call was never answered. So much time has passed since then, even though I still remember why I called. My emotions are no longer the same. The darkness that once swallowed my world is gone, and I saved myself. Oliver looked at me and asked, if I had picked up either of those calls, do you think we'd still be together? Maybe he would have come for me right after. Maybe we would have reconciled, or maybe he would have yelled at me, and our rift would have grown even deeper. But either way, it's the past. I said, Oliver, we should both move forward. But he shook his head. I want to look back. Back then, everyone assumed I was with Oliver for his connections, and a part of him believed it too, until I dumped him publicly, until I struggled in my career but never once turned to him, until he found out we had once had a child, until he traced the records of those 2 phone calls. Only then did he realize I had loved him, purely, desperately, so much that I wanted a home with him, a child. Overdue love is always the kind that breaks your heart the most, even for someone like Oliver. It's hard to let go. Emma, can we start over? I shook my head, because I don't love him anymore. Oliver, there will be someone who loves you more than I ever did. And I meant it. Chapter 14. The leaked pregnancy video didn't bring me any backlash. On the contrary, netizens called me tough as nails. Even joked that any woman who can abort Oliver's child has an iron will like no other. After that, the scripts that came to me were better and more frequent. Once Amelia left the industry and went abroad, all the endorsements she snatched from me returned one by one. Even a few I thought I'd never land approached me proactively. My agent asked. So, should we take them? I raised an eyebrow with a smile. Why ask me? Aren't you the boss? Oh, please, my lady. She slapped me lightly on the arm. If it were anyone else, I'd have said yes already. But you do know where these came from, right? They were from Oliver, and he didn't say a word beforehand, probably wanted us to think. They came organically, but neither of us were rookies, and certainly not naive. Endorsements like these weren't just about capability. They were about favors, connections. My agent tried to persuade me. Just take them. He's not saying anything. So let's pretend we don't know. These will boost your career big time. I shook my head. I don't want to owe him anything. She sighed. You forgave him for what happened back then. And honestly, he was in the wrong. This isn't a favor. At most, it's him making up for it. I don't want his compensation either. She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. You're so stubborn it's dumb. I give up. Chapter 15. After my agent left, I called Oliver. He picked up faster than he used to when we were dating, but after the line connected, he didn't speak. Oliver. I said his name softly. He asked, "What's wrong?" Stop sending me resources. I was direct. There was no room for him to play dumb. He paused for 2 seconds, then said, "They should have been yours all along. If he hadn't allowed the people around him to make things difficult for me these past few years, if he hadn't silently let Amelia take what was mine, then yes, I would have had the Best Actress trophy long ago. I would have had fame, endorsements, and recognition." I finally asked what I should have asked long ago. Why was I allowed to win this time? If Oliver had never interfered personally, then with Amelia's personality, how could she have suddenly let me go? Oliver replied, "Someone close to me reached out to the organizers. Asked them to judge fairly. A friend of yours? Would I know them? Back when we were together, I'd met most of his inner circle, but Oliver suddenly got evasive, refused to name anyone. I gave up, then pass along my thanks. Okay." After hanging up, I called my agent again, asked the awards organizers, who reached out to help me. She was stunned. "Wait, you mean we didn't win because they finally had a heart? All right, let me go find out." It didn't take long. When she called back, the answer stunned me. It was Oliver's mother. I had thought the things she said to me back then, when she told me to leave Oliver, were all fake. I never imagined she had truly acknowledged my acting. And worse, I had once suspected she was among those trying to sabotage me. Chapter 16. Later that evening, I received a call from Oliver's mother. Apparently, someone from the awards committee had told her I found out. Her voice was gentler than I remembered, with a light smile. "Congratulations, dear. Thank you. No need to thank me. If it weren't for Oliver, you would have gotten this award years ago. Actually, he never stopped me. I know. At first, I thought it was him holding you back. I kept thinking, how could a grown man be so petty after getting dumped that he'd make a woman's life hell for years? I couldn't stand the idea, but when I asked Oliver, he said he never did such a thing, so it must have been Amelia. You see? Even his mother could figure it out instantly. You think Oliver never suspected? In all these years I was repeatedly snubbed? She sighed softly on the other end. Amelia's the only child left in her family. And our family, well, we owe hers. So everyone spoiled her too much. Oliver said she went abroad. Yes. We sent her overseas for some discipline. She'll have to take over their business eventually. Can't let her keep fooling around in showbiz. She paused, perhaps realizing her words were off. Then she added, "Not that I'm saying you were fooling around. I know. If she didn't respect me, she wouldn't have gone to the organizers to ask for fairness on my behalf. Of course I knew. The Oliver family didn't like actresses. Letting me win Best Actress was also a convenient way to humiliate Amelia and push her out of the entertainment circle. No one had expected that the biggest surprise of the night wouldn't be my award, but that video from my black haters. Oliver's mother said. Not keeping the child was the right decision. From here on, may you soar even higher. She was no outsider. She understood. She knew better than anyone what deep waters meant in a real elite family. A child born in secret would never tie down Oliver, nor sway his family, but it could trap me forever. It could become my greatest scandal, only with complete freedom. Can a woman go far? My throat tightened. Thank you. Chapter 17. With no one standing in my way. My career finally took off. The next year, I was back on the awards stage. I thanked my company, the director, and many others for giving me chances over the past 10 years. That led to this moment. There were cheers, tears. I looked to the front row. Oliver wasn't there. Before the event, the organizers had tried several times to ask my agent discreetly whether Oliver would attend. She always played dumb to brush it off. She actually asked me once. I told her, Oliver and I probably won't have contact anymore. He had his family. I was no longer that hot-headed girl who believed in love above all else. The courage I once had to chase love blindly had faded with time. But today happened to be exactly 10 years since I met Oliver. 10 years ago, we fell in love. 10 years later, we sat in each other's contact list, but never contacted again. After the ceremony, someone handed me a bouquet. Inside was a card. No signature, just one line. You will have many more. 10-year spans filled with starlight. 10 years. It was from Oliver. He remembered too. Something in me stirred. I suddenly looked up and saw him, sitting in the very last row, hidden in the shadows. At the same moment, he looked at me too, across the crowded hall. We smiled faintly at each other. By now, Oliver had probably come to peace with our past. Even if he hadn't, he knew he wouldn't ask me to come back. Not anymore. Now, he only hoped I would fly farther, and I will soar fearlessly.